Welcome to the Girls Are Heroes collection, a series where we explore positive representation and visibility for women and girls in pop culture, and what it's like being female and a fan. Today we're going to explore the epic fandom surrounding Mad Max Fury Road, released in 2015, the latest entry into the high-octane, over-the-top, post-apocalyptic Mad Max series started in the 80s by Australian director, screenwriter, and producer George Miller, who's also the producer of Happy Feet. If you're not familiar with the series, it's definitely worth looking up and binge watching while the kids are asleep, especially if you like Australian cinema, which, I mean, what's not to love? More specifically, we're going to be exploring the star of Fury Road. Oh, no, not him. Ooh, no, not him either. I don't even want to go there these days. Yes, that's her. We're going to be exploring the glorious Imperator Furiosa and what she symbolizes within the action flick genre. Let's start with a personal story. I'm in a music venue, the High Dive in Denver, Colorado, to be more specific, and I'm waiting around before one of the shows, chatting up a longtime buddy of mine who's also a prominent artist, musician, skateboarder, and an all-around interesting guy. Mad Max Fury Road had just come out, and we were totally geeking out over the plot, the music, the explosions. The sheer brutality of the visual effects, and of course, we were unashamedly gushing about Imperator Furiosa. At the time, the whole world was falling deeply in love with Furiosa, as word spread about how mind-blowing this movie actually was. This conversation melded with talking about the upcoming Comic-Con season and how I was super excited about all the sweet Fury Road cosplay there would be that year. We are not this! Then he said something that wasn't totally out of character, but gave me pause. I would love to cosplay as her. I want to be her. And though over the years I've seen him in many an awesome costume, he is an artist after all. They've all been silly or manly or both. And he's also a cisgender straight male. And in this moment, he was being sincere. He wasn't joking or trying to be ironic. He thought that Furiosa was such a hardcore, butt-kicking rebel that he wanted to be her too. Not be with her. That's an entirely different thing. He wanted to become her. He identified with her. He even went as far as detailing the schematics to build her mechanical arm, and the plans were pretty impressive. In the years since, this conversation stuck with me because as a geeky female and a cosplayer, I'm used to the idea of crossplay, or in internet speak, Rule 63, but from my experience, it mostly goes in one direction. Unless a guy wants to get a laugh, it's rare to see an actual, seriously thought out male to female crossplay. Why the rarity? Why the lack of fluidity from male to female rather than female to male? These are complicated questions, and they are deeply rooted in gender politics and identity. And in the limited time that we have together on YouTube, we'll explore some of these questions, and I'll always give you resources for further reading and for you to conduct your own research. But in the meantime, let me posit a simple idea that was my gut reaction to my friend's desire to being Furiosa. Finally, we have a female character that men want to be too, after years of women wanting to be Batman and Wolverine. Ladies, we have arrived. And then came the debate. Was Fury Road a feminist movie? Some noted pop culture feminist thinkers and vloggers, like Anita Sarkeesian, applauded the work, but they weren't giving the movie that particular label. And some men's rights internet circles, like Return of Kings, decried it as evil feminist propaganda. So who's right? And why is this no-holds-barred, in-your-face action flick dropped in the center of such a heated argument? Well, the truth is, there isn't a right answer to the whole is it or isn't it debate. And we're going to have to get a whole lot more basic if we're going to uncover the reason why Fury Road has landed itself in such hot internet water. A common criticism of the is it feminist debates is that the debate itself detracts from the overall work of art. I guess most people would say when put to the question, but that's not really the point of the movie, is it? Filmspotting, a really great, thoughtful, and entertaining podcast and National Public Radio program by Adam Kempnar and Josh Larsen, put it this way in their critique of Fury Road and the feminist debate swirling around it.
So Adam, where do you fall on the question of whether or not Mad Max Fury Road is feminist? Or do you think that this debate itself has hijacked a movie that is at its core just a brilliant take-no-prisoners action flick?
Well, I guess I can't say that it's hijacked it because I only just became aware of this raging debate. Sometimes I guess the question I put back on you, Josh, is can I say that it's not a feminist movie, but still like the movie? I think that may be the more challenging question to answer. Are we using the movie as a springboard to really have a discussion about women and power and culture, or are we using it as a test that the movie either passes or it fails? And then if it fails, the movie as well. Sarkeesian makes several great, really nuanced points, and I'm sure we'll come back to a few more of them in her Twitter timeline. I probably agree with more of what she has to say than disagree. But when she says it isn't feminist, it makes me think that there's almost this checklist for art, and the movie either checks those boxes, however many there are, or it doesn't check the boxes. And if it doesn't check all of them, can we still appreciate what it's doing versus what it isn't doing?
You and I are both coming at it as movie people first, or let's say as text-oriented film lovers, not someone from feminist film theory or any sort of political film theory or any sort of ideology.
Sure.
And if you are looking at the film through that lens first, you may be holding it up to standards and saying, because I'm aware of this, I like to call attention to these, what are important concerns. This is why I like reading people who have this perspective on films. That's what you're going to draw upon. I'm just a boy watching a movie, hoping it does right by its girls. That's where I come at films as far as from a feminist concern. I don't like to see...
The statement, I'm just a boy watching a movie, jumps out because it's very connected to the I guess mentality when it comes to talking about issues of representation for females and the feelings of frustration the majority of the population feels when a piece of art just can't be what it is without people trying to pick it apart. First, lots of props to both Kepner and Larsen for diving right into the feminist debate instead of shying away from it. It was completely relevant for them to be talking about the movie in this way for what was going on with it at the time. And it was also really refreshing to see two men with their type of platform engaging with the subject matter in such a fair and thoughtful way. But here's an ingredient I think that they were missing. It's not that looking at a film through feminist eyes is not having a film-first perspective. It's not that the movie can't be enjoyed without first checking all of these boxes. A list where it can be put into one camp or another for one type of people or another to enjoy. It's not that everything these days has to be politicized and can't just be fun anymore. These ideas aren't detracting from the art or from the enjoyment. It's quite the opposite, actually. It's that the Fury Road creative team created a big budget, clever, razor-sharp, highly profitable, widely advertised and distributed, award-winning, action-packed blockbuster. 370 million gross worldwide, 45 million opening day, 6 Academy Award wins, 10 nominations. That features a woman and a multitude of compelling female characters and a female-focused story. It's about the creators taking responsibility for that, for her femaleness, for what they made with their hands, and for what that means to other women, for what it means for girls who grow into women, and everyone who identifies even a little bit as female. Just as, I would hope, they would take responsibility for a man in the same role, for his manliness, for what all the boys growing up will see and idolize and identify with. Identity is at the core of who every person is, who they were, who they aspire to be. The Fury Road folks created a piece of art that helped shape our cultural identity a little bit more. They helped shape them, for better or worse. That's the power of media and the depths of fandoms that it generates, of moving pictures on very large screens broadcast out to tens of thousands of people all over the world. It's called a platform, and Fury Road has one heck of a platform it's standing on. When creators with similar or larger platforms say that that's not power, when they brush off critics and say there is no responsibility, not only is that being a lazy artist, it's fundamentally misunderstanding the source of all of that prestige. Now, if all the artists and creators out there feel overwhelmed by this way of thinking, well, yeah, they should be. Fans aren't here to sugarcoat this experience for them.
This is the moment every Harry Potter fan that's been waiting for days has been waiting to see.
We do know creators have an overwhelming and crazy job. The highs are unimaginable and the lows can be soul-crushing. But they have to keep creating. They have to keep reshaping the world because that's what they do. They get to keep imagining a better, more interesting reality for the rest of us. And that's a huge privilege. So they should give us fans a break by actually taking some responsibility for their creations once in a while.
How much do I love you? Question number 2. How much do you love me?
They're asking us to invest our time, our money, our hearts, and our minds into their work. Understanding the gravity of those investments is the least that they can do. We're watching and we're waiting. And speaking as a geeky female, we are starving. If Fury Road is any indication, girls have lots of dollars and accolades to give when content creators start taking us seriously. Thanks so much for watching. I've included a lot of links for further reading in the description below. And my question to all of you is, what character of opposite gender have you always identified with and why? Mine, growing up, was Batman. But now I would have to say I identify more with Nightwing, the Robin that struck out on his own to become his own hero. Plus, I really like his costume. Leave your comment in the comment section below, and I'll answer some of them in the next video. Witness me. Please don't say that.